And it's time now for my daily interview series. It's Money Talks. And all I can say is, what the frack? Because fracking wasn't included in today's energy security strategy. Earlier this week, the government launched a review, handy, into the controversial drilling method to extract shale gas. And that's not going to report back for 3 months. But there are increasing calls for ministers to set aside the concerns of many environmentalists and lift the 2019 ban on UK fracking, implemented after reports of earth tremors. So what's the truth about fracking? Well, On the Money's tracked down an industry specialist, someone who's drilled for oil and gas using fracking and all manner of methods, from the Middle East to Asia to our own North Sea. So please welcome Scotland's own Gary Taylor, among Britain's most experienced oil and gas drilling engineers, our latest guest on Money Talks. Gary, great to have you on the show. Just give us a little sense of your experience in the oil and gas industry. I've described you as a globe-trotting oil and gas drilling engineer.
Thanks, Liam. You make it sound very glamorous. But no, my experience extends to 35 years, predominantly in the North Sea, Middle East and Far East, as well as Crimea and Russia as well, which is quite a topical location right now for obvious reasons.
Now, you've watched the energy industry debate over the last few years. You know, a few years ago, nuclear was extremely controversial. Now, we've got many environmentalists backing nuclear. Not all of them, of course, as we just heard in Amelia Harper's report. And we've seen fracking go from, the great hope to something that's been completely written off by many people. What's the truth about fracking? What's your opinion, given that it's what you do?
It is. It's interesting. I mean, to many, electricity and nuclear are far more dangerous than to someone like myself involved in the industry, drilling the actual process of drilling the oil wells. We've been drilling the North Sea for 50 years. We've been fracking those wells offshore. I don't know anyone that's seen any adverse effect through earthquake, through pollution of water sources in the UK whatsoever. Moving onshore obviously is a little bit more emotive in so much as it's in our backyards. But again, the UK, probably the most legislative country in the world with regards to safety and the extraction of oil and gas. And I think, again, it's something we can do quickly. We have the infrastructure in place for gas. And if it's controlled and engineered, as it has been in the North Sea for the past 40 years, then I think people don't need to worry about all the horror stories and these fake news stories that we see on YouTube from the US.
It's a strong statement from you, Gary, fake news. Let's just go back to what fracking actually is. Now, my understanding is the reason it's different from conventional drilling is that you are injecting into the wellhead water, a combination of water and chemicals and sand under very high pressure to split rocks apart, getting oil and gas out of those so-called tight formations. Fracking tends to be more expensive than conventional drilling, but it is highly effective. In America, we've seen a fracking revolution, and now American wholesale gas is much cheaper than it is in Europe. Is it more dangerous, though? Even if you're saying it's not particularly dangerous, is it more dangerous than conventional drilling? Does it cause earth tremors, in some cases serious? Or do you think the whole thing has been unfairly demonised?
I think it's been unfairly demonised. There is no doubt that there is a greater danger than the actual drilling process itself. The fracking process, as you say, is once the well is drilled and completed to extract the oil and gas from the rock, you need porosity and you need permeability. These rocks have no permeability, so we use high pressure fluids with what we call proppant in it, maybe that may be sand, maybe ceramic beads, etc., to crack the rock, and then those sands, etc., hold the rock open to allow the gas to flow. So that is the only added danger to the whole process, is that fracking, which may cause earth tremors. For example, we get 200 to 300 earthquakes a year in the UK already, and the magnitude of those would be on a par with what we see with the fracking process. It can be controlled to a degree, and it's all done under controlled environments.
And Gary, I mean, I've read lots about fracking. I'm not an oil engineer like you. I like to give this debate a really fair crack of the whip here on Money Talks. I'm delighted to have you on with your expertise. Yesterday, I had Francis Egan on, the CEO of Quadrilla. But I must say, from what I've read and heard, there have been some dangers. There have been some earth tremors onshore. Was there not at least some justification for that late 2019 moratorium coming in? Or would you say it was just the government posturing to environmental lobbies before a general election?
I think there's an element of posturing. I think it's good that we are controlling it. All we can do, like everything, we talk about the science. We've heard about the science during a pandemic, and it's that research and trial and to some degree error. But we use blasting techniques to build motorways. We use chemicals to pour down our drains. Nothing really different from the fracking process itself. It's just a more unknown quantity to the general public. Again, the only way to learn about the science is to continue fracking in a controlled environment. And under the UK guidelines, that's exactly what we're doing.
Let's just go back to the North Sea. Of course, North Sea oil and gas has been a huge boon for the UK. Only in Norway across Western Europe does any other country have the production capability that we have. We were just talking to Ross Doonan there of UK offshore oil and gas, and he was saying that the best we can really hope for, and he works for a lobby group trying to increase production from the North Sea, given the drop-off in production over recent years, halving since the year 2000 North Sea oil and gas. He said that the best we can do is stem the declines, or sort of, slow down more, at a slower pace, if you like. What's the word within the oil industry itself, among people who work on the front line, about the North Sea? Is there still a lot more we can squeeze from that particular lemon? Do you think we're too lacking in ambition for what the North Sea could be in terms of a supplier of oil and gas?
I don't think we're ever going to see the boom days again, and I think it's correct that stemming it is probably more likely than a boom. And again, part of the reason for that is the cost of extraction in North Sea, and that again stems from the regulation and legislation that's put in place to keep it safe. Now, I'd rather A, buy local, and B, have it from a safe source rather than from unproven territories and shipping it across the world. I mean, we tend to buy everything local except oil and gas in our own backyard.
I think, Gary, you're obviously a very keen observer of this debate, often with a wry smile, I suggest, given how oversimplified it is in the public domain compared to what you guys in the industry live and breathe every day. What did you think when you heard just the day before the government's big, long-awaited energy review that there was going to be a 3-month review into fracking? Did it look like they're kicking it into the long grass? Do you think that moratorium will be lifted? What's your instinct?
My instinct is that it isn't. And I think that's generally because the general public don't understand the process. I think we're all human nature. We shy away from things we don't understand. Again, for me, it's nuclear. I was brought up in an era where nuclear was, the dirty fuel. It was the end of the world. And somehow they've managed to turn it around to becoming a clean energy. So I think it's education, but I think our politicians probably don't understand the process. The general public don't understand it, therefore they feed it. So I think it's unlikely that we'll have a turnaround.
Are you worried about Britain's energy security? You've literally travelled the world. You're a proud Scot, a proud Brit. You've travelled the world flying our flag, if you like, making your way in this industry. What's the word on the street across the oil and gas industry globally? Is Britain's energy security in doubt?
I think we've all seen in the last month that Europe can be held to ransom. It's compromised. Britain less so because A, our own ability to produce, and B, the places that we ship our oil and gas in from. But I lived in Ukraine and worked in Ukraine for a year and can remember them turning the gas off and how bitter cold and how difficult life becomes. And I think people maybe should think about that reality, and it's only now that we're starting to see that.
Well, Gary Taylor, it really is a privilege to have you on the show. Gary Taylor there, one of Britain's most experienced oil and gas drilling engineers, lending us his expertise, our latest episode of Money Talks. I look forward to welcoming Gary back onto the show in the weeks and months to come.
Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.